Chapter 21. The elders of the Nine Saint Demon Gate finished their preparations the next day and immediately invited Xianxia over. Chief Grand Protector Yuhi personally served as the coachman to take Xianxia to the deepest part of the Nine Saint Demon Gate. With Yuhi's powerful strength and Tao cultivation, let alone in the Nine Saint Demon Gate, even across the entire ancient Ox land, he was a major figure who commanded one region. A cultivator who reached the King Marquis level could shake the ground just by stomping their foot. But a major figure like that could only serve as a coachman for Xianxia. Perhaps no one would believe it if this news spread outside. The Nine Saint Demon Gate originated from the Nine Saint Grand Sage. Through the efforts of successive ancestors, the Nine Saint Demon Gate has become immensely powerful, leading all the sects in the Grand Middle region today. The earth vein of the Nine Saint Demon Gate is vast, and the heaven and earth essence is so abundant and dense that it covers the entire Nine Saint Demon Gate like mist, difficult to disperse for a long time. Especially within the sect's territory, the heaven and earth essence is even thicker, seemingly never dissipating. At the very end of the Nine Saint Demon Gate stands a solitary peak. On the mountain, there is only an ancient cave which is sealed shut. It is unknown how many years this ancient cave has been sealed. The tree roots next to the ancient cave have twisted like dragons, the zizhi, a type of fungus, hang at various heights, and the face of the ancient cave is mottled with the marks of time, evidence of wear over the years. This place is a forbidden area of the Nine Saint Demon Gate, only those at the elder level or above can come here. The sacred cave is the most mysterious place since the sect's founding. Legend has it that the sacred cave conceals an earth-shattering treasure. This cave was left behind by the founder, the Nine Saint Grand Sage of the Nine Saint Demon Gate. All subsequent generations of sect masters and powerhouses of the Nine Saint Demon Gate have been unable to open it. One legend says that when the Nine Saint Grand Sage established the Nine Saint Demon Gate, although he left behind his Tao lineage, passing down the cultivation techniques and secret arts he had cultivated throughout his life to later generations of disciples, the Nine Saint Grand Sage still sealed a few things in the sacred cave. Another legend says that the Nine Saint Grand Sage feared that his descendants would be unfilial, so he left behind some inner resources. In case the Nine Saint Demon Gate declined, as long as the sacred cave remained, the Nine Saint Demon Gate would still have a chance to rise again. What treasure is hidden in the sacred cave is an unanswered question that successive generations of Nine Saint Demon Gate disciples have diligently speculated upon. However, the successive sect masters and elders of the Nine Saint Demon Gate all agree on one thing: a piece of immortal Emperor true weapon is definitely hidden inside the cave. Legend has it that when immortal Emperor Min Ren received the heaven's will and ruled the world, to reward the great merit of the Nine Saint Grand Sage for escorting the Tao, he specially bestowed a piece of immortal Emperor true weapon. However, the Nine Saint Grand Sage did not pass it down to his descendants. That's why everyone believed that, besides other items, that piece of immortal Emperor true weapon must be hidden in the sacred cave. Immortal Emperor true weapon is the weapon that immortal Emperor Min Ren personally forged, which accompanied him in battles across the 9 heavens and 10 lands. Such a true weapon is countless times stronger than a Grand Sage true energy weapon. Although it is not immortal Emperor true energy, just the true weapon alone makes everyone covet it. The elders of the Nine Saint Demon Gate were almost simultaneously holding their breath in front of the sacred cave. The ancient tree in front of the ancient cave had reached the sky, immense beyond compare. The cracks in its bark twisted and curved, resembling dragon scales. To the left of this ancient sacred cave, there was surprisingly a row of characters, radiant and vibrant, in stark contrast to the surrounding environment. Tian Yawewa Heavenly Demon is only I/me. These 4 characters exuded a majestic aura. Each stroke of each character was like a flying dragon and dancing phoenix, seemingly wanting to leave the rock face and soar into the sky. Although countless years of erosion have passed, the aura of a grand sage still permeated them. These 4 characters were personally left by the 9 Saint Grand Sage. Successive generations of 9 Saint Demon Gate disciples believed that this was the key to opening the sacred cave. To the left is Xianxia Weiwa, but the right side is left blank. Therefore, successive generations of 9 Saint Demon Gate disciples unanimously agreed that only by finding the corresponding couplet for the right side could the seal be successfully opened. However, some people believed that the 4 characters Xianxia Weiwa contained supreme Tao techniques. Each stroke encapsulated the great Tao, and only by comprehending the hidden meaning within could the sacred cave be opened. All these speculations have been tested by successive generations of 9 Saint Demon Gate disciples. The disciple with the highest talent in the 9 Saint Demon Gate once meditated here, hoping to find the true meaning of these 4 characters. Sect masters of the 9 Saint Demon Gate also once entered the mortal world, inviting the most talented scholars here, hoping that person could complete the couplet for the right side. But no matter which method was used, for hundreds of thousands of years, no one has been able to open the sacred cave. Xianxia only smiled when he saw these 4 characters. The events of the past flashed through his mind again. Back then, it was he who invited the 9 Saint Grand Sage down the mountain to escort the Tao for immortal Emperor Min Ren. Then, immortal Emperor Min Ren received the heaven's will. Xianxia's condition gradually became unstable, and he prepared to fall into slumber and seal himself away. Just as Xianxia was about to enter secluded cultivation, because the 9 Saint Grand Sage always hoped that the 9 Saint Demon Gate could exist for a long time, he told Xianxia about the sacred cave. He hoped that in the future, Xianxia would show some consideration for the 9 Saint Demon Gate out of respect for him. As soon as he saw these 4 characters, Xianxia knew how to open the sacred cave. However, under the watchful eyes of the elders, he couldn't just open it right away. Xianxia walked closer to the sacred cave, tapping here and there. After exploring for a moment, he shook his head. Then he pretended to look intently at the 4 characters Xianxia Weiwa and pondered deeply. Seeing Xianxia fumbling for so long without any movement from the sacred cave, the elders of the 9 Saint Demon Gate gradually lost patience. But they didn't dare to show it on their faces. They just held their breath and paid close attention to Xianxia's every move. Finally, Xianxia sat cross-legged in front of the sacred cave, pretending to seriously contemplate. Time ticked by. Moment by moment, from morning to noon, from noon until the sun set in the west, staining the sky red with its light. He remained sitting there, motionless. Xianxia sat like that for a full day and night, making the elders of the 9 Saint Demon Gate unable to remain calm. Will he succeed? Someone muttered to himself, could this young brat be deliberately pretending to be mysterious? Seeing Xianxia still motionless, the elders' belief and hope were shaken. However, they also had to admit one point, that young brat was a bit strange. First, he easily crossed the 14 levels of the Heart Calamity Forest, and then he was able to communicate with the guardian gods, truly beyond everyone's imagination. Maybe he was just lucky for a moment. An elder voiced his dissatisfaction. After all, the sacred cave was a forbidden area of the 9 Saint Demon Gate. Just allowing an outsider to come and explore it made the elders feel aggrieved and uncomfortable. Bring a brush here. Finally, just as the elders began to buzz with discussion, Xianxia immediately stood up and said leisurely. Sitting there for a day and a night, his backside was already numb and sore. An elder quickly brought a brush. Xianxia put on a mysterious look, shook his head, and sighed, so that's how it is, so that's how it is. The 9 Saint Grand Sage is indeed unfathomable. After saying that, he dipped the brush in ink and wrote on the right side of the sacred cave. Edg Mao chicken feathers litter the ground. Xianxia was not a famous calligrapher. He just casually wrote 4 characters. The aura, of course, could not compare to the 9 Saint Grand Sage. Xianxia Weiwa, edg Mao, a humorous translation, heavenly demon is. Only I/me, chicken feathers litter the ground. The two phrases were completely unmatched. The styles of the characters were also different. It was like a comic act, extremely bizarre and absurd. When Xianxia finished writing these four characters, the elders' faces immediately changed color, because these four characters were simply an insult to their 9 Saint Demon Gate. These four characters could not possibly match the four characters Xianxia Weiwa. Impudent. Insulting our 9 Saint Demon Gate. An elder shouted angrily. Xianxia glanced at him and said calmly, "You vulgar warrior, what do you know about the profoundness of literature? You don't even know the painstaking effort of your ancestor, yet you stand there shouting nonsense. You." Seeing Xianxia speak so presumptuously, the elder's face turned beet red with anger, ready to erupt. Creak, creak, creak. Just as the elder was about to lose control, a series of heavy sounds rang out. The sacred cave was surprisingly slowly opening. Suddenly, the elders of the 9 Saint Demon Gate widened their eyes. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. Because they, along with successive generations of sect masters and elders, had expended so much effort and still couldn't budge the sacred cave even an inch. Yet, today, with just the four crooked characters E.D.G. Mao, which were incomparable to the majestic, flowing characters Xianxia Weiwa, the sacred cave was actually opened. It was truly hard to believe. Immediately, all the elders present felt their minds go blank, standing stunned in place. How can this be? Someone whispered as if asking himself. Xianxia pouted, smiled and said, because your founder was a chicken spirit. So the couplet is chicken feathers litter the ground. Of course, he didn't tell them the real secret. Back then, the 9 Saint Grand Sage didn't have that name yet. He proudly and arrogantly called himself the 9 Saint Heavenly Demon. When the dark crow Xianxia requested the 9 Saint Grand Sage to escort the Tao for immortal Emperor Minren, the 9 Saint Grand Sage refused. Immediately. He even praised himself, Xianxia Weiwa. Because the 9 Saint Grand Sage dared to flatly refuse his invitation, the dark crow Xianxia angrily beat the 9 Saint Grand Sage severely, even forcing the 9 Saint Grand Sage to reveal his true form and plucking all his feathers to vent his anger, then mocked him with a laugh, edg Mao. The 9 Saint Grand Sage was not only a chicken spirit who cultivated the Tao, but also one of the strongest Grand Sages of that time. He once swept across the 8 desolations, fiercely glorious, but ultimately lost under Xia's hands and had no choice but to agree to leave the mountain and escort the Tao for immortal Emperor Minren. Xianxia Weiwa was the 9 Saint Grand Sage's slogan, and edg Mao was Xia's mockery. Outsiders had no idea about this secret. Such an abnormal scene made the elders of the 9 Saint Demon Gate difficult to believe. Successive generations of sect masters and geniuses of the 9 Saint Demon Gate all racked their brains to ponder the ultimate profoundness of the four characters Xianxia Weiwa, but no one thought it would be edg Mao. Although Xianxia called their founder a chicken spirit, which was very disrespectful, the elders thought carefully and felt that there was some truth to it. The founder was indeed a wild chicken that cultivated the Tao. Let's see what good things your ancestor left behind. Xianxia smiled comfortably, spoke leisurely, and walked into the sacred cave, disregarding the reaction of the 9 Saint Demon Gate. Elders. The elders of the 9 Saint Demon Gate quickly regained their senses and rushed to follow him inside. Inside the cave, there was only one treasure chamber. Upon entering, a dazzling divine light and vast immortal light illuminated the entire room, blinding everyone. Inside the treasure chamber were hanging true weapons, hidden immortal iron, placed divine stones, and precious books stored in ancient boxes. The entire room was immediately filled with myriad colors, making people feel mesmerized. The old chicken spirit still has quite a lot of treasures. Xia's gaze swept over everything, and he muttered, The Nine Saint Grand Sage was worthy of being one of the strongest Grand Sages of that time. The treasures he accumulated throughout his life were truly astonishing. What did you say? An elder near Xianxia heard him whisper and asked. Xianxia shook his head and replied. Nothing, I was just talking to myself. This answer made the grand elder look at Xianxia with even more suspicion. He felt that this 13-year-old boy in front of him was truly too unorthodox. Purple dragon twin swords. An elder who saw the true weapons floating in the treasure chamber couldn't help but exclaim in a daze, demon-slaying pagoda, 9-star river ladle, sacred heaven wooden boat. These things are all treasures recorded in the sect. This is the ancient Greenwood secret. Another elder who saw the secret manuals on the bookshelf couldn't help but be startled. Now the elders of the Nine Saint Demon Gate were increasingly dazzled. They feared that their founder only passed down half of the treasures and techniques back then. In fact, the Nine Saint Grand Sage owned many treasures, besides those he acquired through a lifetime of competition. There were also many treasures that immortal Emperor Minren generously bestowed upon him out of gratitude for his protection and hard work. Immortal Emperor. True weapon. At this moment, the Grand Elder's gaze shifted to the jade table in the center of the room. On the table was an ancient box. Although it was locked, it couldn't completely seal the Immortal Emperor aura emanating from it. Although only a wisp of aura leaked out, it was comparable to the vast sky. It felt as if the 9 heavens were pressing down, the heavens was rising and falling, and all beings in the world had to worship this wisp of aura. Immortal Emperor true weapon. At this moment, all the elders of the Nine Saint Demon Gate felt their hearts tremble. Utterly moved. This was an Immortal Emperor true weapon. This was a treasure left behind by the Immortal Emperor, personally forged by Immortal Emperor Min Ren. Don't forget that I get to choose one item first. Just as the elders of the Nine Saint Demon Gate were moved and choked up, Xianxia leisurely spoke. His words were like pouring a basin of cold water on everyone's faces. Pairs of burning eyes stared intently at Xianxia. If Xianxia truly chose the Immortal Emperor true weapon, wouldn't their dreams be for nothing? Facing the eager stares of the elders, Xianxia remained calm. He was not afraid of the Nine Saint Demon Gate changing their minds. Even if all the elders were present right now, he would be exactly the same. Finally, the Grand Elder took a deep breath and spoke. Our Nine Saint Demon Gate keeps its word. Since His Majesty has agreed, we absolutely will not go back on our promise. Saying this, his words contained bitterness. This was an Immortal Emperor true weapon. But since the Wheel Sun Demon Sovereign had agreed, they couldn't possibly go back on their word. I see you still have some integrity. Xianxia remained tranquil like still water, slowly saying, I actually have a bit of admiration for your Wheel Sun Demon Sovereign. Such arrogant words from Xianxia made the elders of the Nine Saint Demon Gate not know what to say. Their demon sovereign was a hero of his generation, his talent was outstanding. Not only in the Grand Middle region, but looking across the entire Emperor land, the Wheel Sun Demon Sovereign was an unparalleled figure. Yet, today, a 13-year-old boy spoke nonsense, daring to say he admired His Majesty the Demon Sovereign. If outsiders heard this, they would probably laugh their teeth out. It was not the first time the elders of the Nine Saint Demon Gate had seen Xianxia speak presumptuously, but what could they do other than remain silent? Clap, clap, clap. Just as the elders of the Nine Saint Demon Gate were silent, Xianxia clapped his hands 3 times. As the sound stopped, an ancient box in the treasure chamber flew up and landed in his hand. Xianxia glanced at it and put it in his chest, slowly saying, It's just an Immortal Emperor true weapon. Why be so nervous about it? After saying that, he turned and left. The elders of the Nine Saint Demon Gate were instantly unable to react for 2 reasons. First, Xianxia clapped his hands 3 times, and an ancient box flew into his hand. This was too unorthodox. It also happened too quickly, leaving them only to stare curiously, wanting to know what was in the box. Second, in Xianxia's mouth, the immortal Emperor True weapon seemed to become an insignificant item. This was an immortal Emperor True weapon. Anyone with a bit of common sense knew what this item represented, yet Xianxia spoke of it as casually as the wind and clouds, truly stunning people. By the time the elders of the 9 Saint Demon Gate regained their senses, Xianxia had already left. Everyone quickly recorded all the treasures and ancient secret manuals in the room, placing each item, whether it was a treasure or divine metal, divine gold or divine iron is gold or iron used as material for refining weapons, treasures, etc., into the 9 Saint Demon Gates treasury. It took them 3 days to complete all the necessary tasks. During these 3 days, it could be said that the 3 people, including Xianxia, enjoyed the 9 Saint Demon Gates most. Noble hospitality. 3 days later, Yuhi came to invite Xianxia again. This chief grand protector once again carried Xianxia to the heavenly hall. Although a powerhouse who could be titled a king, Marquis had to serve as a horseman for Xianxia, he didn't show the slightest resentment. He understood the importance of Xianxia to the 9 Saint Demon Gate. In the heavenly hall, the elders of the 9 Saint Demon Gate were all present, only the Wheel Sun Demon Sovereign still hadn't shown his face. The eyes of the elders now looked at Xianxia in a strange, indescribable way. They could only say one thing in their hearts, too unorthodox. As soon as Xianxia sat down in his seat, the voice of the Wheel Sun Demon Sovereign rang out again. I am still in secluded cultivation, and haven't come out. It's truly regrettable that I can't see young Master Li. What kind of person was the Wheel Sun Demon Sovereign? It could be said that he was a hegemon who looked down upon the grand middle region of his time. Yet, today, he spoke so politely to a 13-year-old boy. If this matter spread, it would absolutely shake the entire Emperor land. There's plenty of time. No need to rush. Even facing such a powerful demon sovereign of his generation, Xianxia sat leisurely, replying calmly, without the slightest hint of panic. The Wheel Sun Demon Sovereign was silent. For a moment, then spoke. Is young Master Li willing to stay in the 9 Saint Demon Gate? Whatever the cleansing incense ancient sect offers young Master Li, our 9 Saint Demon Gate can also offer it. The Wheel Sun Demon Sovereign said such words, yet the elders of the 9 Saint Demon Gate were completely calm, indicating that they had already discussed this matter. The Wheel Sun Demon Sovereign's words made Xianxia pause for a moment. Comparatively, the 9 Saint Demon Gate certainly had an advantage over the cleansing incense ancient sect right now. The 9 Saint Demon Gate was many times stronger than the cleansing incense ancient sect today. For any cultivator, especially a young disciple, if they had to choose between the 9 Saint Demon Gate and the cleansing incense ancient sect, they would definitely choose the former. Finally, Xianxia smiled, gently shook his head, and replied. Thank you for the Demon Sovereign's kind intentions. I have a connection with the cleansing incense ancient sect. Since I am the chief grand disciple of the cleansing incense ancient sect, I will definitely be a disciple of the cleansing incense ancient sect for life. Xianxia had too much sentiment for the cleansing incense ancient sect. Although he didn't particularly like the successive sect masters, especially the grand disciple of immortal Emperor Minren. Therefore, after immortal Emperor Minren passed away, although he didn't return to this place, it was still a sect he personally founded. Currently, although the 9 Saint Demon Gate was stronger than the cleansing incense ancient sect, both sects had their pros and cons, and the key point here was that he wanted to rebuild the cleansing incense ancient sect. He didn't choose to stay in the Heavenly Sea City, nor did he choose the War God Temple, and he even put the 9 Saint Demon Gate aside. Ultimately, he still chose the declining cleansing incense ancient sect. Xianxia chose the cleansing incense ancient sect for his own reasons. Humph, it's just the cleansing incense ancient sect. How can it compare to the 9 Saint Demon Gate? An elder was dissatisfied and let out a cold snort. It was understandable why the elder of the 9 Saint Demon Gate was unhappy. Their 9 Saint Demon Gate now governed the ancient Ox land, commanding hundreds of sects, granting territories and titles. Countless people wanted to join the 9 Saint Demon Gate. Yet, today, Xianxia was personally invited by the Wheel Sun Demon Sovereign to stay, but he refused, clearly showing disrespect. To this remark, Xianxia only curled his lip and said leisurely, "A true powerhouse doesn't care whether the sect is strong or weak. True invincibility doesn't care whether one comes from a commoner or a royal family." This statement made the elder speechless, because those words, although spoken leisurely and calmly, were extremely confident and domineering. Everyone stared blankly at Xianxia. A 13-year-old boy, replying with such composure and confidence. It didn't sound like arrogant, thoughtless nonsense. Seeing the elders of the 9 Saint Demon Gate staring blankly, Xianxia spoke flatly, "If the matter here is settled, then let your successor come out and meet me. No matter how monstrous a genius is, they are nothing to boast about in my eyes." Xianxia's words made the elders speechless, not knowing how to respond. This young brat, only 13 years old, continued to speak so arrogantly. However, coming from his mouth, it made others feel that it was natural. Finally, the Wheel Sun Demon Sovereign, whose word was golden, issued an order. "Xianxia, come out and meet young Master Li." When Li Xuangan, the successor of the 9 Saint Demon Gate, appeared in the heavenly hall, her beauty illuminated the place. She was a peerless beauty of her generation, constantly praised by others. She was a girl about 18 years old, her features like a painting, her eyebrows dark, her eyes like a bright moon, and her lips a captivating crimson, extremely attractive. However, a woman with such city-toppling beauty was as cold as ice. There was a hint of arrogance between her eyebrows. Her white robe highlighted her stubborn and unyielding nature, and her aura was commanding. Li Xuangan, true to her name, was the successor of the 9 Saint Demon Gate, the #1 beauty of the ancient Ox land. Furthermore, her talent and Dao cultivation were not inferior to her beauty. Li Xuangan was born with a king physique, her longevity was of the king level. What was even more astonishing was her Fate Palace, which was of the saint level. Also known as Saint Fate. A young cultivator with a king physique, king wheel, and Saint Fate was categorized as an unparalleled genius. Her bones, talent, and comprehension were all flawless. It was normal for a heaven's favorite like her not to want to marry Xianxia, who only had a mortal physique, mortal wheel, and mortal fate. Moreover, the cleansing incense ancient sect was now in decline. Even if Xianxia was the chief grand disciple, it didn't count for much. Xianxia was not overly surprised by Li Xuanyan's peerless beauty and proud talent. His life had drifted through the river of time, enduring long, arduous years. He had seen many beauties. In terms of talent and beauty, who could compare to immortal Emperor Zhu Shui or immortal Emperor Bing Yu throughout history? Glancing at Li Xuangan, Xianxia nodded and evaluated. Not bad. Xianxia's first sentence gave Li Xuangan a favorable impression, but his next sentence made her extremely angry. After a brief look at the girl in front of him, Xianxia continued leisurely. "You're still a bit lacking to be my wife. A Saint Fate is barely acceptable. Right now, I lack a sword attendant. So why don't you be my sword attendant? You." As soon as he finished speaking, not only did Li Xuangan want to lose her temper, but even the elders of the 9 Saint Demon Gate couldn't tolerate it anymore. Li Xuangan was not only the successor of the 9 Saint Demon Gate but also their pride. The entire 9 Saint Demon Gate placed great expectations on her. Yet today Xianxia dared to speak arrogantly, wanting Li Xuangan to be his maidservant. This was a complete insult to them. without waiting for the elders of the 9 Saint Demon Gate and Li Xuangan to explode in anger. Li Qiye slowly continued. I don't like to force anyone. You should think carefully. If you agree, come to the cleansing incense ancient sect to find me. He said this and then looked at Li Xuangan. Hearing Li Qiye's words, Li Xuangan trembled all over with anger. She was a heaven's favorite, pampered immensely, and had the right to be arrogant. With her beauty and strength, no matter where she went, she was surrounded by stars circling the moon. The talented young men who wanted to marry her could line up from the east to the west of the ancient Ox land. Yet, now, a young boy who hadn't even grown hair dared to speak so arrogantly, wanting her to be his maidservant. This boy looked cute, but in Li Xuanyan's eyes right now, he was utterly detestable. You are too presumptuous. An elder of the 9 Saint Demon Gate couldn't help but shout in a low voice. The successor of the 9 Saint Demon Gate only deserved to be a maidservant to a 13-year-old child. This arrogance was infuriating. This young brat was clearly trying to humiliate the 9 Saint Demon Gate. Opportunities must be seized by oneself. I have given you the opportunity, but whether you can grasp it depends on your own luck. Li Qiye completely disregarded the elder's words, glanced at Li Xuangan, turned and walked away. Li Qiye's words made Li Xuanyan's ice-cold face flush with anger, her chest heaving. She had met many arrogant people, but Li Qiye was the first of his kind. What was even more detestable was that Li Qiye was only 13 years old. She was 5 years older than him. Such a young brat dared to act superior in front of her. It was infuriating. Everyone said children were cute, but Li Qiye in Li Xuanyan's eyes was now an utterly detestable brat. Your Majesty, he dares to humiliate our 9 Saint Demon Gate. You absolutely cannot let him off easily. An elder said indignantly. The Wheel Sun Demon Sovereign was silent for a while before replying. If one is a true dragon, they will eventually soar to the 9 heavens. If one is a divine phoenix, they will ultimately sweep across the 8 desolations. Whether he is a dragon or a phoenix, let us wait and see. As soon as Li Qiye returned to his residence, Nanhuiren rushed over to inquire. Senior brother, how is your marriage with Princess Li going? Protector Mo also couldn't help but turn to look at Li Qiye. The 9 Saint Demon Gate now regarded Li Qiye highly, and since he had passed the assessment, they knew the marriage was still possible. Today the 9 Saint Demon Gate solemnly invited Li Qiye again. They all thought the 9 Saint Demon Gate probably wanted to discuss the marriage. What marriage? Li Qiye glanced at Nanhuiren and said, I never said I would marry her. If that girl is willing, I might take her as a maidservant. Maidservant. Nanhuiren stammered. Instantly, speechless. He was stunned by Li Qiye's words. Not only Nanhuiren, but even Protector Mo was scared. What kind of person was Li Xuangan? She was the successor of the 9 Saint Demon Gate, a heaven's favored daughter of her generation, the princess of the ancient Ox land. Although young, her reputation was renowned throughout the Grand Middle region. Countless people pursued her. Such a person, countless young talents wanted to marry her but couldn't. Yet, Li Qiye now said she should be his maidservant. No one else would dare to think such a thing. You are truly foolish. If it were before, Protector Mo would definitely have reprimanded Li Qiye. But now he felt that in front of this young man, his seniority was naturally lowered by half. This fellow was too unorthodox, so Protector Mo didn't dare to use the tone of an elder to scold him. She's just a woman. Why be so alarmed? Li Qiye didn't care at all, only saying such a sentence. Although Li Xuangan was worth cultivating, compared to a mortal emperor Bingyu back then, she was still far inferior. Seeing Li Qiye so arrogant, Nan Huiran and Protector Mo had no choice but to remain silent. Nan Huiran was truly stunned. Li Xuangan was a goddess in the hearts of countless people, but in Li Qiya's eyes, she only deserved to be a maidservant. Nan Huiran looked at Li Qiya as if looking at a monster. He completely couldn't see through Li Qiya. What did this young man, much younger than him, rely on to be so confident? Finally, Li Qiya completed the blood bonding ritual with the 4 stone statues. With that done, this trip could be considered a perfect conclusion, so he also wanted to return to the cleansing incense ancient sect. During this time, the elders of the 9 Saint Demon Gate did not show up. Li Xuangan was the same. As for what she was calculating, Li Qiya couldn't be bothered to care. If we return, how should we report? Just before setting off, Protector Mo hesitated slightly, asking for Li Qiya's opinion. Li Qiya looked at Protector Mo, smiled, and leisurely replied. That depends on your choice. Do you want to stand on my side or the elders' side? Hearing Li Qiya's words, Protector Mo's heart immediately shook. The words sounded ordinary, but the meaning was completely different. Protector Mo was not a fool. He had encountered many situations to become a protector. At this moment, Nan Huiran also couldn't help but look at his master. He didn't need to be told. Compared to his master, he was even more astute, knowing how to seize opportunities and guess the thoughts of others. In this instant, Nan Huiran clearly understood that not only him but also his master were standing at a crossroads of choice. Li Qiya's words meant that they either stood on Li Qiya's side or remained on the side of the 6 great elders as before. Their status in the cleansing incense ancient sect was not low. One was an outer door envoy, and the other was one of the 12 protectors. Especially Protector Mo, his status was self-evident. In the cleansing incense ancient sect, he was only lower than the 6 great elders. If he were to pledge allegiance to a newly initiated disciple, anyone who heard it would say it was utterly ridiculous. Protector Mo hadn't spoken, but Nan Huiran felt that in an instant, he grasped a ray of light, seeing a door opening before him. Master. Nan Huiran took a deep breath and called Protector Mo softly. Protector Mo's heart trembled. Nan Huiran was his disciple. How could he not know his disciple's thoughts? But this matter was truly hard to believe. A dignified protector going to rely on a newly initiated disciple. Such a thing was too absurd, unless he was insane. Whatever you say, I will do it immediately. Finally, Protector Mo took a deep breath, making the most important decision in his life, a choice with extraordinary significance. At this moment, Protector Mo felt he was going crazy. He never expected that he would rely on a newly initiated disciple, moreover, having to hide many of the things that happened here. Once exposed, the consequence would be the crime of deceiving his master and betraying the sect. Only a lunatic or a fool could do such a thing. Protector Mo also felt that he belonged to that category. His intuition told him that the 2 of them would have boundless prospects in the future if they followed this 13-year-old young man. But intuition was just intuition. Nan Huiran's heart also shook immensely. This was the moment he had to make an extremely important decision in his life. Hearing his master say that, he also knew how he should reply. As long as senior brother gives the command, I will brave fire and water without hesitation. Nan Huiran took a deep breath and said in a low voice. If he had called Li Qiya senior brother before, it was because the sect rules mandated it, but now, the 2 words senior brother held a completely different meaning. A 13-year-old young man almost overturned the 9 Saint Demon Gate, disdaining the elders who could be titled king marquises, and even talked calmly with the demon sovereign. Others might think that the person who did these things was too arrogant and foolish, not knowing his own limitations. But scenes like Li Qiya crossing the 14 levels of the Heart Calamity Forest, killing a disciple, and eliminating Protector Su of the Nine Saint Demon Gate made Nanhuaran realize that Xianxia was completely unlike what people judged and commented about him. Xianxia, as the chief grand disciple of the cleansing incense ancient sect, dared to kill a protector of the Nine Saint Demon Gate and demote their princess to a maidservant. This young man must have immense courage to do such things. It was as if he had planned everything from the moment he stepped into the Nine Saint Demon Gate's door, certain that he could return unscathed. Nanhuaran was also very smart. He had thought a lot and understood that even if he tried his whole life, the peak he could reach would only be to become an elder of the cleansing incense ancient sect. Perhaps Xianxia's appearance would change his life. Seeing Protector Mo and Nanhuaran both join his side, Xianxia lightly nodded and spoke. One day you will understand that the choice you made today is the most correct decision in your life. How should we report when we return? Protector Mo asked cautiously. The matters related to the assessment and the marriage alliance were very complicated, making his head feel dizzy. Xianxia smiled, looked at Protector Mo, and replied. Since Elder Yun spoke to Protector Mo, I suggest Protector Mo proceed as he was instructed. Xianxia's words made Protector Mo's heart tremble. Indeed, before leaving, the Grand Elder of the Nine Saint Demon Gate came to meet him, expressing the wish that the Nine Saint Demon Gate did not want the matter of the guardian gods to be spread outside. But at that time, Protector Mo had not yet agreed to that request. If it were before in his capacity as a protector of the cleansing incense ancient sect, Protector Mo was not qualified to meet an elder, let alone the Grand Elder of the Nine Saint Demon Gate. Even the elders of the cleansing incense ancient sect would only be received by a protector of the Nine Saint Demon Gate. So, the fact that Protector Mo was met privately and spoken to by the Grand Elder of the Nine Saint Demon Gate carried a completely different meaning. I understand. Protector Mo understood what needed to be said and what shouldn't be said. More precisely, he needed to report in a way that benefited both Xianxia and himself. Finally, the three people, including Xianxia, left the Nine Saint Demon Gate. Chief Grand Protector Yuhi personally came to see them off, which was enough to affirm their importance. In recent times, hardly anyone from the cleansing incense ancient sect had enjoyed such hospitality. The Tao altar was opened and the Tao gate was activated, connecting the Nine Saint Demon Gate and the cleansing incense ancient sect. Finally, the group of three, including Xianxia, set off for home. After stepping out of the Tao gate into the territory of the cleansing incense ancient sect, the master and disciple Protector Mo almost simultaneously took a deep breath, inhaling the heaven and earth essence of the cleansing incense ancient sect. Thinking back on everything that had just happened, they suddenly felt shocked as if waking from a dream. But those events had actually happened, and were not just a strange dream, making their feelings hard to describe at this moment. Returning to the cleansing incense ancient sect as the person in charge of this trip for the marriage alliance between the two sects, Protector Mo immediately went to see the 6 elders to report. As for Xianxia, he went straight back to the solitary peak. Xianxia stood silently on the solitary peak for a long time, gazing out at the entire territory of the cleansing incense ancient sect. He recalled that year when immortal Emperor Minren was alive. The territory of the cleansing incense ancient sect was 1,000,000 li wide, and the heaven and earth essence was dense and vast like a sea of sand. Unfortunately, the cleansing incense ancient sect of today has declined. It no longer has the strength to govern such a large area, and has gradually shrunk. Furthermore, the heaven and earth essence of the cleansing incense ancient sect is slowly depleting. Anyone standing in this area can feel that the heaven and earth essence here has become extremely thin. The cleansing incense ancient sect now resembles an ailing old person or a lamp whose wick is spent and oil is depleted, flickering in the wind, capable of going out at any moment. Xianxia sighed in his heart. He didn't choose the heavenly sea city, nor did he choose the war God temple, and he even ignored the 9 Saint Demon Gate. Ultimately, he still chose this declining cleansing incense ancient sect. The dark crow Xianxia was never fond of the successive sect. Masters of the cleansing incense ancient sect. That year, he had hoped that immortal Emperor Minren would let another disciple take over the position of sect master of the cleansing incense ancient sect. Although this disciple's talent was not equal to that grand disciple, Xianxia valued his character greatly. Unfortunately, when he woke up from his long slumber, immortal Emperor Minren's grand disciple had already taken charge of the cleansing incense ancient sect, and declared that their sect was the true orthodox cultivation of the great Tao. Xianxia was never fond of people who constantly claimed to be the orthodox ones. Therefore, he didn't return to the cleansing incense ancient sect, and didn't care whether the cleansing incense ancient sect thrived or failed. But in this life, he has regained his own body. A serendipitous encounter with the third ghost master made him think of the cleansing incense ancient sect again. Xianxia had personally nurtured immortal Emperor Minren and personally established the cleansing incense ancient sect, so he was full of confidence that he would rebuild its former glory. One day the cleansing incense ancient sect in his hands would sweep across the heavens and earth, ruling the 9 worlds. Xianxia stood silently on the solitary peak, lost in thought, not even noticing Nanhuaran's arrival. "Senior brother, the elders want to see you," Nanhuaran said quickly after Xianxia regained his senses. Xianxia lightly nodded and followed Nanhuaran towards the ancestral hall. The 6 elders had already gathered there, all staring intently at Xianxia. The atmosphere in the ancestral hall suddenly became heavy and strangely eerie. The 6 elders had heard Protector Mo's report on the situation regarding the marriage alliance. Protector Mo had been vague about some parts. He mainly recounted in detail Xianxia's feat of crossing the 14 levels of the Heart Calamity Forest, while only briefly mentioning the duel with Su Hui. He even failed to mention the snake-beating rod, or the 4 elephant stone figures. Finally, he concluded grandly, Xianxia only won against Su Hui by luck. "You passed the assessment." The Grand Elder stared intently at Xianxia, asking in a serious tone. In truth, the 6 elders had little hope for this marriage alliance. But the unimaginable had happened, Xianxia had passed the assessment. What was even more astonishing was that he could walk through the Heart Calamity Forest. "Yes, Elder. It seems I will soon receive the reward due to me," Xianxia calmly replied, unaffected by the eerie atmosphere in the ancestral hall. "You will certainly be rewarded, but I still need you to explain one thing," the Grand Elder said in a low voice. "As far as I know, Su Hui is a prominent young disciple among the 9 St. Demon Gate disciples. His Tao cultivation is almost equal to our hall masters. You are a newly initiated disciple who hasn't learned any Tao techniques. How did you defeat him?" "Elder, Tao techniques are complex but martial arts are simple. I practice the Qi Men Saber technique in a bizarre style. As long as the enemy shows a slight opening, he will immediately receive a fatal blow. In a life-or-death confrontation, the brave one wins," Xianxia replied leisurely. "Nonsense," Elder Xiong suddenly shouted, coldly saying. "A mere mortal dares to claim to kill an expert in the true fate realm. Utterly arrogant." This Elder Xiong had previously been a firm supporter of Xianxia, but today his words were cold, even showing dissatisfaction, a complete change from before. Xianxia glanced at Elder Xiong, slowly speaking. "Elder, I am only stating the truth. Just because others cannot do it does not mean I cannot." Saying this, he looked at the 6 elders and continued. "Elders, today I am a meritorious official of the cleansing incense ancient sect. If you doubt me of cheating, you can ask those who witnessed the events firsthand, such as Protector Mo or the disciples of the 9 St. Demon Gate. All of you elders know clearly in your hearts that this trip for the marriage alliance was fraught with danger. Going to the 9 St. Demon Gate was like walking into a death trap. But for the honor of the cleansing incense ancient sect I still went, even if it meant risking my life. Today, I return as a meritorious official. Why do you doubt me? Is this how you treat a meritorious official? If so, it is truly disheartening. Who will be willing to sacrifice for the sect in the future? Xianxia paused for a moment and then continued. Before setting off, the elders and I made an agreement. Do you intend to go back on your word? If that is the case, I can only say that joining this sect was a mistake. Our cleansing incense ancient sect is an emperor lineage immortal gate passed down for generations. If the elders are not true to their word, I ask you, what credibility does our sect still have? The sect's credibility does not need the likes of you to criticize. An elder shouted in a low voice. Xianxia completely ignored the elder's reaction. He said leisurely, I risked my life to enter the 9 Saint Demon Gate and returned with complete merit. If you elders honor your promise from that day, do not constantly question the meritorious official, and give me what I deserve, I will not criticize anything. If not, then I must condemn, because the success of this trip was bought with my life. Saying this, Xianxia looked coldly at the 6 elders. You speak too harshly. At this moment, an elder coughed, his expression somewhat embarrassed. The Grand Elder also spoke. Qi Yi. We do not doubt you. It's just that this matter is a bit strange. Let's temporarily put aside the matter concerning Su Hui, but I want to hear your explanation for crossing the Heart Calamity Forest. After saying that, his eyes shone brightly, staring intently at Xianxia, as if trying to see through this young man. At this moment, not only the Grand Elder but all 5 other elders focused their attention on Xianxia. If killing Su Hui could still be considered a miracle, after all, people have their moments, or in other words, Su Hui might have been too arrogant and unprepared, leading to Xianxia's successful sneak attack. But the Heart Calamity Forest was different. The 6 elders knew that for hundreds of thousands of years, no disciple of the 9 Saint Demon Gate, generation after generation, had been able to walk through the Heart Calamity Forest, unless that person was a grand sage. Stared at by the 6 elders, Protector Mo and Nan Huiran were also sweating coldly for Xianxia. Elder, the Heart Calamity Forest is meant to disrupt the hearts of those who enter. It is not a place to assess Dao cultivation. As long as one's Dao heart is firm enough, they can cross the Heart Calamity Forest. This has nothing to do with the level of Dao cultivation. Xianxia slowly replied to the Grand Elder's questioning. Can the Dao heart of a mortal like you be firmer than a king marquise? Elder Xiong said with dissatisfaction, coldly snorting. Xianxia slightly raised an eyebrow, looked at him, and said, Elder, what does the firmness of the Dao heart have to do with Dao cultivation? High Dao cultivation does not mean a firm Dao heart. Throughout the ages, how many true persons and saint emperors have tragically died from going berserk because their Dao hearts were not firm? You ignorant brat. What right do you have to comment on true persons and saint emperors? Elder Xiong shouted softly. Xianxia didn't even bother to glance at him, saying coldly, I am only stating the whole truth. If the elders believe I am lying, you can go to the 9 Saint Demon Gate to verify the truth. Seeing Xianxia daring to argue openly, Elder Xiong immediately glared. Just as he was about to erupt, the Grand Elder coughed and said, Let's leave this matter at that. How about the marriage between you and Princess Li? Even if they could temporarily accept the killing of Su Hui, no one could believe that Xianxia easily crossed the 14 levels of the Heart Calamity Forest. Even a saint emperor couldn't walk through the Heart Calamity Forest, so how could a mortal do it? But for the Grand Elder and the others right now, those things were not important. The most crucial thing was, when could the 9 Saint Demon Gate and the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect form a marriage alliance? The cleansing incense ancient sect desperately needed a powerful force like the 9 Saint Demon Gate for support. You need to ask the 9 Saint Demon Gate about this. I cannot decide. Xianxia was no longer interested in continuing the conversation, replying definitively. There is no need to discuss further. The Grand Elder had no choice. He couldn't force Li Xuangan to marry Xianxia. Their cleansing incense ancient sect was not in a position to negotiate with the 9 Saint Demon Gate. The Grand Elder spoke again. You have made a great contribution. According to the previous agreement, what you deserve will be given to you. Brother Gu. As soon as the Grand Elder spoke, Elder Xiong couldn't help but change his expression, hastily interrupting. But the Grand Elder lightly waved his sleeve, stopping Elder Xiong from speaking further. The Grand Elder looked at Xianxia and continued. First, when you reach the body-tempering realm, the sect will prepare a portion of King Physique paste for you. Second, you can choose one portion each of the cultivation techniques, fate techniques, physique arts and longevity arts in the sect. Of course you can choose other items, but you cannot exceed 3 techniques. Are you satisfied with this? That's fine. However, I have one more request. Xianxia nodded and said. The Grand Elder nodded. You may speak. I need a protective weapon, so I need to choose a true weapon or a fate weapon. Xianxia said in a low voice. The Grand Elder nodded in acceptance. All right. You can freely choose one item among the true weapons, fate weapons, or longevity treasures below the 3rd floor. Thank you, Elder. Xianxia clasped his hands in thanks, then turned and left. Huiran, go with Qi Yi. After Xianxia left, the Grand Elder instructed Nan Huiran. After Xianxia left, Elder Xiong said in a low voice. Brother Gu, this person is probably problematic. He might be a spy sent by the 9 Saint Demon Gate. How can Brother Chao Xiong say that? Another elder lightly shook his head, refuting. I don't think so. The 9 Saint Demon Gate is much stronger than us today. The 9 Saint Demon Gate now governs the ancient Ox land, it is already a colossal monster. Why would it need to send someone to infiltrate our cleansing incense ancient sect? Brother Sun makes a lot of sense. An elder agreed. Does our cleansing incense ancient sect still need the 9 Saint Demon Gate to scheme against? That might not be the case. Perhaps the 9 Saint Demon Gate wants to acquire our Emperor art or even our Heavens Will secret art. Elder Xiong said in a low voice. Elder Xiong's words made the remaining 5 elders look at each other, because they knew the situation of the cleansing incense ancient sect too well. I don't think that's necessary. Elder Sun, ranked 4th among the 6 great elders, shook his head and said. Xianxia holds the cleansing incense ancient token. If he truly wanted to seize our Emperor art, he only needs to speak. Can we say no? To take a step back. If the 9 Saint Demon Gate truly wanted to seize the Emperor art, and the Wheel Sun Demon Sovereign personally took action, I think no one in our cleansing incense ancient sect could stop them. Elder Sun's words made the other elders fall silent. If the 9 Saint Demon Gate truly wanted to seize their cleansing incense ancient sect's Emperor art, they could truly annihilate the entire cleansing incense ancient sect. If the Wheel Sun Demon Sovereign personally took action, who in the cleansing incense ancient sect would have the strength to resist? In fact, even if just an elder of the 9 Saint Demon Gate took action, the 6 of them would not be a match. Brother Gu, I believe we must be cautious. Better safe than sorry. Finally, Elder Xiong said thoughtfully. This matter needs to be reported to the sect master. Finally, the Grand Elder said solemnly, no longer expressing any further attitude. So be it. Elder Xiong only snorted softly, his tone containing dissatisfaction with the sect master. The elder's suspect senior brother is a spy sent by the 9 Saint Demon Gate. After leaving the ancestral hall, Nanhuaran said to Xianxia. In a low voice. He was naturally very perceptive, skilled at guessing the thoughts of others, and could naturally deduce most of the 6 elders' thoughts. Let them think whatever they want. Xianxia only smiled faintly and shook his head lightly. The decline of the cleansing incense ancient sect was not without reason. Although those 6 people held the position of elder, it seemed their Dao cultivation hadn't reached the King Marquis level. More importantly, they were unable to shoulder the responsibility of leading one region by themselves. Speaking of this, Xianxia asked, "What about Elder Xiong?" That day, when he wanted to become the chief grand disciple, Elder Xiong maintained a supportive attitude, but his demeanor today was completely the opposite. Be careful of Elder Xiong. Nanhuaran looked left and right, then said softly to Xianxia. Second Elder Chao Xiong has always wanted to compete with the sect master for the position of sect master. But he was unsuccessful. Later, he once wanted his disciple He Yingjian to become the chief grand disciple. Unfortunately, the sect master refused. He has never given up his desire for the sect master position. Even if he can't ascend to the position, he hopes his disciple He Yingjian can become the sect master. Furthermore, Chao Xiong has guest elders supporting him behind the scenes. I see. If I were trash, even if I became the chief grand disciple, I wouldn't have a chance to become the sect master. If I had a relationship with Li Xuangan, then it would be hard to say. Xianxia smiled faintly. He understood why Chao Xiong's attitude was so contradictory before and after. Nanhuaran lightly nodded and said in a low voice, Elder Xiong has always been watching the sect master, fearing that the sect master would take in some genius disciple. Because the position of chief grand disciple was always vacant, he discussed it several times with the elders, consistently hoping that He Yingjian would become the chief grand disciple. However, the sect master never allowed it. Then where is the sect master? Xianxia felt a little strange. After joining the cleansing incense ancient sect, he had never met the sect master, Su Yonghuang. Nanhuaran shook his head and replied, the sect master has never stayed within the sect's territory. She has always been cultivating outside. In fact, I have only met her a few times. Speaking of this, Nanhuaran saw someone nearby and whispered, there are rumors in the sect that the sect master was forced out by the elders. No one knows the specifics. In short, the sect master rarely stays in the sect, and when the sect master left the sect, she also took some protectors and hall masters with her. Xianxia stroked his chin, pondering. In that case, there is a lot of factional struggle within the cleansing incense ancient sect. It seemed the situation of the cleansing incense ancient sect was much more complicated than he had imagined. Some say there are 4 factions. Nanhuaran replied. Some protectors and hall masters follow the sect master. Some hall masters follow Elder Xiong. These people consistently hope Elder Xiong becomes the sect master. There is also a group of people who originated from the Grand Elders faction. The remaining 4 elders mostly maintain a neutral attitude. Does the Grand Elder also want to compete for the sect master position? Xianxia asked. Nanhuaran shook his head. No one knows what the Grand Elder thinks. People say he doesn't fully support the sect master, but he has never competed for the sect master position. However, the Grand Elder has a great influence in the sect. He controls the enforcement team within the sect, which is very strict, so most disciples are wary of him. Nanhuaran's explanation gave Xianxia a certain understanding of the cleansing incense ancient sect's situation. Thinking of this, Xianxia smiled faintly and didn't ask anything more. The Divine Crow Peak is the most important area of the cleansing incense ancient sect. It can even be called a forbidden area. Without the permission of the sect master or the elders, no disciple can ascend the Divine Crow Peak. At the same time, the Divine Crow Peak is also the highest main peak of the cleansing incense ancient sect. On the Divine Crow Peak is a triangular ancient compound, which houses all the secret manuals, cultivation techniques, treasure weapons, true weapons, rare metals, divine stones, etc., of the cleansing incense ancient sect. The Divine Crow Peak is heavily guarded. It can be said that there is a patrol every 3 steps and a sentry every 5 steps. Not even a mosquito can fly in. The entire Divine Crow Peak is protected by the elite disciples of the cleansing incense ancient sect. Furthermore, 2 of the 6 elders usually take turns guarding the Divine Crow Peak. For the cleansing incense ancient sect, the Divine Crow Peak is too important. It can even be said that all the most valuable possessions of the cleansing incense ancient sect are located on the Divine Crow Peak. At the same time, there is also a legend about the Divine Crow Peak. It is said that when immortal Emperor Minren had not yet borne the Heaven's Will, he was once assisted by the Heaven's Will. A divine crow flew down from the sky, landing on this peak. Immortal Emperor Minren received guidance from the Divine Crow and built the cleansing incense ancient sect right here. Thank you for listening to the story on KTN Storyverse. Please like, share, and subscribe to enjoy more amazing stories. Xianxia smiled brightly when he heard Manhua introduce the old story of the Divine Cliff Peak, simply because the generals and subordinates of immortal Emperor Minren, wanting to commemorate his dark crow self, had named it that way. The triangular ancient courtyard on the Divine Cliff Peak wasn't very large, but the entire courtyard was pitch black, as if it were built of black iron, looking extremely heavy. In fact, none of the disciples of the cleansing incense ancient sect through the generations knew what divine material this ancient courtyard was built from. When Xianxia and Manhua stood before the pitch-black triangular ancient courtyard, their hearts were full of emotion. Countless years had passed, but this ancient courtyard still stood there. And its mysterious origin naturally surpassed the imagination of the world. As his emotions surged, Xianxia's attention was drawn to the huge shrine in front of the ancient courtyard. In his memory, there was no such shrine when this triangular ancient courtyard was built back then. Xianxia's gaze focused on the shrine. Inside, a man with an extremely robust physique was sitting cross-legged. His age was impossible to guess because his hair was tangled, his beard was bushy and covered his face, and weeds had taken root and sprouted on his body, so it was unknown how long he had been sitting there. The man's eyes were tightly closed. If it weren't for his steady breathing, others would think he was a dried corpse. That wasn't the point that startled people. What startled them was that his hands and feet were chained by massive iron ropes. For others or those without knowledge, it wouldn't matter, but Xianxia knew a lot. He knew these iron chains were forged from black primordial cold iron, a type of extremely rare divine metal. What kind of person would be worthy of being chained with black primordial cold iron? Moreover, the man in front of him seemed willing to be chained here, and wasn't being forced. Seeing Xianxia's attention on the man in the shrine, Manhua whispered, "That's the guardian of this triangular ancient courtyard. No one knows his specific background. Why is he chained there?" Xianxia continued to look at the man sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed in the shrine and asked. Manhua shook his head and replied, "No one knows. I'm afraid no one in our entire cleansing incense ancient sect knows either. I heard that he's been chained there for a very long time, even my master doesn't know for how long. Some say he was a disciple of the sect, a sinner, who committed a monstrous crime, which is why he was chained there." Xianxia gently nodded and didn't say anything more. Then, he and Manhua walked into the triangular ancient courtyard. When the two of them entered the triangular ancient courtyard, the chained man suddenly opened his eyes. That gaze contained extreme dread. Seemingly capable of penetrating through the ages and tearing apart the chaos, a gaze that would make even kings or true immortals tremble. However, when he closed his eyes again, it was as if nothing had ever happened. The triangular ancient courtyard didn't look very large from the outside, but once they stepped inside, they saw a completely different space. Inside the triangular ancient courtyard was extremely vast, with an area of up to 10,000 mu, where 3 extremely majestic ancient towers were built close to each other, forming this triangular ancient courtyard. Undoubtedly, from the outside, this triangular ancient courtyard with an area of 10,000 mu looked like a small courtyard, but inside there was an abnormally large space. It seemed this ancient courtyard was refined by supreme divine power. Stepping into the triangular ancient courtyard, Manhua immediately introduced. This side is the scripture depository pavilion. That side is the armament depository pavilion, and that place is the treasure depository pavilion. The 3 ancient towers of the triangular ancient courtyard are divided by the cleansing incense ancient sect into secret manuals, treasures, and divine materials. Manhua continued. Each ancient tower is responsible by a protector, regardless of which disciple wants to take or borrow secret manuals, treasures, or divine materials, they must pass the inspection of that protector. Speaking of this, Manhua asked Xianxia, "Where does senior brother want to go first?" "Let's go into the scripture depository pavilion first." Xianxia glanced at the 3 ancient towers and casually said. When Manhua and Xianxia entered the scripture depository pavilion, there were 8 disciples of the cleansing incense ancient sect with profound strength stationed here, and also a protector in charge. After the 2 presented the elder's token, the protector of the scripture depository pavilion allowed them to enter. As soon as one stepped inside the scripture depository pavilion, they felt as if they were entering a magnificent library. The scripture depository pavilion was so vast that one couldn't see the end. Just looking at the size of the scripture depository pavilion was enough to imagine the past glory of the cleansing incense ancient sect. Upon entering, Xianxia and Manhua realized that they weren't the only 2 people there. There were also quite a few disciples selecting the cultivation methods or secret manuals suitable for them. Manhua was an intelligent, clever, and social person who had good relations with many disciples in the cleansing incense ancient sect. When he saw his senior brothers and junior brothers, he naturally greeted each of them in turn. Xianxia was different. He had only recently joined the sect, and the disciples of the cleansing incense ancient sect didn't particularly favor him. Although the cleansing incense ancient sect had declined, it was still an immortal emperor lineage after all. It was already unusual for a mortal to be able to join the cleansing incense ancient sect. What was even more ridiculous was that this waste with a mortal physique, mortal wheel, and mortal fate became the chief disciple. This highest position of chief disciple was extremely prestigious, the eldest senior brother of all third-generation disciples. Who knew how many third-generation disciples in the cleansing incense ancient sect with extraordinary talent and even outstanding merits wanted to become the highest chief disciple, yet they were not approved by the sect master. But now the situation was reversed. A waste who had just entered was immediately placed in the position of chief disciple. How could this not anger countless disciples? Even though the disciples of the cleansing incense ancient sect dared not violate the decision of the elders, they were absolutely not happy with Xianxia. "He's that Xianxia." A disciple looked Xianxia up and down, as if looking at a monster. In fact, some people wanted to seize the cleansing incense ancient token, and many people within the cleansing incense ancient sect had tried, but no one had succeeded. Then, suddenly, the 3rd ghostly elder gave such a treasure to Xianxia. This was truly beyond imagination. "It's him. I heard that he once invited the 3rd ghostly elder to play with women at the Chui Honglu for 10 days and 10 nights. A disciple disdainfully said. A disciple who seemed to have a clearer grasp of the situation shook his head and said, "You're wrong. It wasn't just 10 days and 10 nights. I heard people say that he booked a pair of twin sisters at Chui Honglu for that womanizer, and those twin sisters were still virgins when they came to work, so he spent money to buy the next 3 years to serve the third ghostly elder. That's why that lustful old man agreed to give his ancient token to him. This story became more and more sensational. Some said Xianxia invited the third ghostly elder to play with women at the Chui Honglu, or that he booked a pair of twin sisters to serve the third ghostly elder. Others said he booked the entire Chui Honglu for 10 years, allowing the third ghostly elder to do whatever he liked. In general, all kinds of rumors circulated, but no matter what the rumor was, they all revolved around Xianxia using shameless methods to entice and deceive the third ghostly elder, making that old lecher willingly hand over the cleansing incense ancient token to him. Humph, I didn't expect the elders to let such a waste and shameless person be the chief disciple. That brat is truly a disgrace to the cleansing incense ancient sect. A disciple shouted angrily with indignation. Another disciple asked in surprise. Wasn't he undergoing the assessment at the 9 Saint Demon Gate? Why is he back so quickly? He must have failed. How could a waste like him pass the assessment? He's dreaming in broad daylight. How can he, a mere toad, wish to eat the swan meat that is Princess Li of the ancient Ox country? Another disciple sneered dismissively. The 6 elders had not yet publicly announced that Xianxia had passed the assessment, because they had not yet clearly seen the attitude of the 9 Saint Demon Gate in this matter. Without the consent of the 9 Saint Demon Gate, the 6 elders dared not easily announce the marriage between Xianxia and Li Xuangan. What if Li Xuangan did not agree and they damaged her reputation, angering the wheel-turning demon emperor, which could mean the annihilation of their sect? Hearing the words of his senior and junior brothers in the sect, Manhua felt a little ashamed, but couldn't speak the truth about what happened at the 9 Saint Demon Gate. As for the one being insulted, Xianxia strolled leisurely, as if he hadn't heard anything at all, relaxed and at ease, reading each secret manual on the shelves. Tiger Roar Art, Heavenly Silkworm Longevity Method, Burning Sunwheel Technique, Iron Ox Yellow Body Technique. One by one, the secret manuals were placed on the shelves. These books, some were originals, some were handwritten copies. Some were reproduced copies, some were carved on stone. They were diverse in form. There were techniques used to cultivate the physique, longevity methods to increase vital energy, and fate arts for attacking and defending. The number of secret manuals here was extremely varied, with all types available, and very diverse. Just by looking at this collection of cultivation methods, one could imagine the extremely glorious past of the cleansing incense ancient sect. Many of the cultivation methods and secret manuals here were created by our ancestors and past generations' virtuous figures, and some were obtained from other sects or inheritances. Manhua said to Xianxia, if senior brother wants to choose a cultivation method related to emperor arts, you must go to the 3rd floor. The cultivation methods on the 1st floor are the most common in the sect, which anyone can practice. The 2nd floor has cultivation methods for hall masters or disciples who have made merits to practice. Xianxia wasn't in a hurry to choose. He just briefly looked over each cultivation method in front of him, because he already had a goal in mind. Xianxia started viewing from the 1st floor. By the time he stepped onto the 3rd floor, he could see 1 or 2 copies of emperor arts. But these were only a few unimportant emperor arts, not the core ones. During this process, he discovered something. The further up he went, the fewer cultivation methods were on the shelves, and many spots only had the name written but no book. This meant that a certain type of cultivation method was once stored here, but was no longer present later on. It's impossible to naturally lend out most of the cultivation methods and secret manuals, right? Xianxia looked around the 3rd floor and asked. Manhua shook his head and replied, I heard that we lost a lot of cultivation methods and secret manuals. Then he looked around a bit and lowered his voice to continue. I heard my master say that our cleansing incense ancient sect actually has very few emperor arts left. If there are any important emperor arts, there are definitely no more than 3 types, likely located on the top 3 floors. If even those places don't have them anymore, then the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect is just a false name of an immortal emperor lineage. After immortal Emperor Mingren acknowledged the heaven's will, there were countless cultivation methods he created throughout his life, especially after becoming an immortal emperor, where he created emperor arts that could communicate with heaven and earth, and even heaven's will secret techniques. Were they robbed? Xianxia naturally knew exactly how many emperor arts the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect possessed. The Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect not only contained the cultivation methods created by immortal Emperor Mingren, but also the emperor arts and ancient arts that he and his people had stolen. These ancient arts originated from the desolate era, some from the hands of the heavenly demons, blood race, stone men, charm spirits. Ancient underworld, one could say they encompassed many secret techniques of the myriad races. I don't know the specifics of this. Manhua quietly replied. I heard that 50,000 years ago the talented patriarch of our Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect was defeated, and a catastrophe struck us. Later, I heard that 30,000 years ago, a major event happened in the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect, causing us heavy losses. There are also rumors within the sect that the sect's emperor arts were sealed by Patriarch Mu on the top 3 floors. Some even say that 30,000 years ago, the Sacred Heaven sect defeated us and plundered a series of emperor arts. Is it Mu Xiaodi, Mu the young emperor? Hearing Nanhuaran's words, Xianxia recalled that 50,000 years ago, a genius had appeared in the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect, but because his state was problematic at the time, he didn't pay much attention to the situation back then. Yes. It's Patriarch Mu. As soon as Mu Xiaodi was mentioned, Nanhuaran felt his blood boil and continued to tell. According to the legend, 50,000 years ago, Patriarch Mu was the most likely person to become the immortal emperor succeeding Patriarch Mingren. He was once the strongest opponent of immortal Emperor Ta Kong's entire life. I once heard, when Patriarch Mu competed with immortal Emperor Ta Kong for the heaven's will, he won 3 times and lost 3 times. Even immortal Emperor Ta Kong, with his heaven-defying talent, had to lose to Patriarch Mu 3 times. In those years, our Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect was at its strongest state since the era of Patriarch Mingren. The Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect once swept across the world. Don't mention just the Great Middle Territory, even the entire mortal emperor world had no one who dared to cause trouble. Nanhuaran talked endlessly about Mu Xiaodi, because Mu Xiaodi was once the greatest pride of the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect after immortal Emperor Mingren. But in the end, the one who acknowledged the heavens will was still immortal Emperor Ta Kong. Regarding Nanhuaran's excitement, Xianxia spoke faintly. Xianxia's words were like pouring a bucket of cold water on Nanhuaran's face. He, who was talking eloquently, immediately deflated and looked gloomy. I heard that after the final battle between Patriarch Mu and immortal Emperor Ta Kong, he never appeared again. Some say the Patriarch died in battle. Some say the Patriarch passed away within the sect. Some elders even speculate that Patriarch Mu took away a series of emperor arts from the sect and sealed them on the top 3 floors. Are there no emperor arts on the middle 3 floors? Xianxia looked up and asked. The elders only granted him the authority to enter the bottom 3 floors. Nanhuaran also looked up at the top 3 floors and shook his head, replying. My master said that he went up there twice, but the number of secret manuals there could be counted on one's fingers. Xianxia said nothing more, gently shaking his head. It seemed the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect was only left with its name. What kind of immortal emperor lineage had only a scattered few emperor arts? Saying the Cleansing Incense Ancient Sect was in decline was a well-founded statement. Finally, Xianxia chose a secret manual for attacking enemies and protecting his life on the 3rd floor, another secret manual for cultivating to prolong lifespan and nourishing blood on the second floor, and on the bottom floor, he took out a large stack of secret manuals. Manhua counted the stack and found there were 120 scrolls. He immediately became silent and quietly asked, "Senior brother, these are just martial techniques, Vipfbapk, not worth mentioning. Anyone in the sect can read them. Does senior brother want to change to another type? I have my own plan." Xianxia shook his head and replied. Seeing Xianxia seemed to have planned everything out, Manhua didn't say anything more and quickly helped Xianxia register these secret manuals. If it were before, Manhua would definitely think Xianxia was truly foolish. A cultivator choosing over 100 scrolls of martial techniques was abandoning the root for the branches. But Manhua didn't think that way now. When Xianxia and Manhua walked out carrying the 120 secret manuals and martial techniques, the disciples present looked at him like an idiot. Even the few second-generation disciples responsible for registration looked at Xianxia as if he were a monster. The elders stipulated that you can only choose 3 secret manuals. A disciple in charge checked Xianxia's token and said. Xianxia slowly replied, "I know. I only chose 1 fate art for cultivation, and 1 longevity method for prolonging lifespan and nourishing blood. As for the 3rd scroll, I didn't choose it. Huaran said that these martial techniques are something anyone in the sect can read, so I can too, right?" The disciples responsible for registration exchanged glances, then looked at the protector stationed there. Waiting for the person's approval, the registration disciples didn't say anything more. One person looked at the stack of books and counted loudly. 44 scrolls of martial techniques general outline, Tongquang Vipfbapk, 36 scrolls of miscellaneous martial techniques, Hontap Vipfbapk, 40 scrolls of iron skin and copper sinews cultivation, Tu Luyan de Sat Gondong. The disciple couldn't help but look at Xianxia like he was a fool when he said this. All these martial techniques were things of little value, far inferior to other martial techniques, let alone comparing them to Tao methods. From the dust accumulated on the stack of books, one could tell that no one had ever read these 120 scrolls. Upon hearing that Xianxia chose over 100 martial techniques to cultivate, the disciples present couldn't help but burst into laughter. Such an ignorant fool. Even if you practice all the martial techniques in the world, you'll still be mediocre. A disciple disdainfully spoke. Another disciple mocked. Brother Wang, this is called self-awareness. Tao methods are not something a waste with only a mortal physique, mortal will, and mortal fate can easily practice. Even in 10 years, he won't be able to successfully cultivate the most basic foundation heart method. People know that they can't achieve success in the Tao, so they retreat a step and practice martial techniques. In truth, the martial techniques stored in the scripture depository pavilion of the cleansing incense ancient sect had been there for who knows how long. But since ancient times, the number of disciples who read these martial techniques was very few, let alone reading all 120 scrolls. Xianxia gave a cold glance at the laughing crowd. Manhua, beside him, secretly broke out in a cold sweat, worrying for them. Others might not know, but he was very clear, Xianxia was definitely the type to kill without batting an eye. Even Du Yuanguang and Su Hui were dismembered by him on the spot. What were these senior and junior brothers considered? At this moment, a second-generation disciple responsible for registration frowned and advised Xianxia. These martial techniques, you should just skim through them. And stop. Don't focus too much on them. Regarding the goodwill of this disciple, Xianxia smiled and slowly said. My first cultivation method was Chiman blade technique, Kaiman Dao Thuat. A type of martial technique, and its power is also great. Who knows, if I practice all these hundreds of martial techniques, I might become invincible in the world. Xianxia's reply led to the crowd bursting into laughter. A disciple spoke. Hundreds of martial techniques might not make you invincible in the world, but if you practice hundreds of thousands of martial techniques, you might truly become invincible in the world. The disciple responsible for registration shook his head and said in a deep voice, "Nonsense. Martial techniques are just a side path. If you want to learn, just mastering one or two is enough. Learning over 100 martial techniques is just a waste of energy and a distraction from cultivation. Little martial uncle. He fundamentally doesn't accept your kindness. Just leave him be, don't bother wasting your breath advising him." A third-generation disciple laughed and said, "Waste is always waste. Mud cannot build a wall." He might even think you're trying to deceive him. Everyone ignored martial techniques. Fundamentally, no cultivator practiced these things, yet now Xianxia wanted over 100 types at once. In the eyes of others, he was completely an idiot. Of course, since Xianxia insisted on borrowing them, that kind-hearted disciple didn't stop him anymore and went back to continue the registration for Xianxia. When Xianxia took out the second secret manual, the disciple gently nodded and said, "That's right. The cultivation method you chose is not bad. Kuanpeng's minor intent 6 forms, Kanbang Tu Y Luke Tuk, is a lesser technique of an emperor art in our cleansing incense ancient sect. Even though it's only a lesser technique, it still has some profoundness and power." The station protector sitting nearby also nodded and spoke. "You should focus on cultivating this cultivation method, and not let down its reputation. Kuanpeng's minor intent 6 forms is a lesser technique of the emperor art Kuanpeng's 6 transformations, Kanbang Luke Bien. If you successfully cultivate this method, it will serve as a very good foundation for you in the future when you have the opportunity to cultivate Kuanpeng's 6 transformations. It's a genuine advantage." Hearing these words, the other disciples couldn't help but feel envious and jealous. This was an emperor art. Even if it was just a lesser technique, it was still much stronger than many ordinary cultivation methods. Even grand sage arts couldn't compare to it. He's just a waste. Such a profound emperor art, even if Kuanpeng's minor intent 6 forms only has 6 forms, he'll never succeed in cultivating it in his entire life. A jealous disciple spoke, his words full of disdain. Another disciple, feeling unconvinced, couldn't help but say, "What right does he have to cultivate an emperor art?" Of course, these disciples could only obediently shut their mouths under the harsh gaze of the protector. Xianxia held the token approved by the 6 elders themselves. Unless they wanted to question the decision of the 6 elders, they could only stand there and envy Xianxia. Xianxia took out the last secret manual. This scroll was extremely old, having passed through countless years. It was unknown what material it was made from, but even though it had been flipped through countless times, there wasn't a single point of damage. Moon waning sun wheel art, Noyet Quadyung Wan Song. The disciple responsible for registration saw this cultivation method, glanced at Xianxia, and then looked towards the protector. And the station protector subconsciously frowned. Moon waning sun wheel art. A disciple heard the name and coldly said, "Another idiot trying to learn quickly. How can there be such a thing as fast-track learning in practicing the Tao methods in this world? Heh. People want to become a genius overnight." A disciple replied sourly. "Heh, even if he practices the moon waning sun wheel art, he can't become invincible overnight. Genius and waste are determined by heaven. Even if a waste learns any fast-track cultivation method, he won't become a genius. It's best not to practice this technique. It will eventually harm you." The protector shook his head and advised against it. Although the early stage of this technique can help you speed up your cultivation, based on your mortal grade life wheel, you can only stop at the robust longevity, Trang. Though, realm at most. After that, you won't be able to cultivate this technique to the next realm. Back then, a genius in the sect with a saint-grade life will also stopped at the heavenly source. Thienguin, realm, causing himself to miss the best time for cultivation. The moon-waning sun will art was very famous in the cleansing incense ancient sect because cultivators could practice it very quickly in the early stage. It used vital energy to pull life force, rapidly enhancing Tao foundation. However, once a certain realm was reached, due to the enhanced Tao foundation, the vital energy would stagnate and could no longer pull the cultivation method, making cultivation extremely difficult, even impossible to step into the next realm. Therefore, the moon-waning sun wheel art was called a fast-track cultivation method, but it also had another name, the cripple's cultivation method. Not a few geniuses wanted to try it but all failed. Thank you, Protector, for your guidance. I will stop myself at the right moment. Regarding the Protector's advice, Xianxia just smiled and didn't care. Seeing Xianxia foolishly not listening, the Protector snorted and continued to close his eyes, not saying a word. In his eyes, Xianxia was just a waste with a mortal physique, mortal wheel, and mortal fate. He didn't want to waste more words. If Xianxia's talent was excellent, he definitely wouldn't have allowed Xianxia to practice it. Finally, Xianxia left with a stack of secret manuals amidst the ridicule of the disciples. Manhua also rushed to help. Xianxia moved them back to the lone peak. By the time they returned, it was no longer early. Xianxia then said, "Let's go choose the treasures tomorrow." Manhua readily agreed. He didn't understand why Xianxia chose so many types of martial techniques. Practicing all of them would take 3 to 5 years, clearly a waste of time. However, seeing that Xianxia seemed to have planned everything out, Manhua didn't say much. He then said, "With so many secret manuals, I'll ask the External Affairs Hall for a cosmic pouch for Senior Brother tomorrow, which will also make it convenient for Senior Brother to move around." Xianxia gently nodded and didn't reply. As Manhua was about to leave, Xianxia asked, "What is the name of that second-generation disciple?" "At the Scripture Depository Pavilion." Manhua quickly replied, "Chu Dao Li Quat Dao Lai." He was originally a third-generation disciple like us, but his talent is very good, and he was willing to stay at the Scripture Depository Pavilion, so he was promoted to a second-generation disciple. Xianxia smiled again and didn't say anything more. It was then that Manhua took his leave. After Manhua left, Xianxia closed the door of the small courtyard, prepared paper and brush, and opened all 120 scrolls of martial technique secret manuals, arranging them in an order that no one could understand. Xianxia's expression was serious and focused. After arranging them all, he opened the first page of each scroll, recorded a character from it and then opened the second page of each scroll. Every step Xianxia took was extremely careful, because no one in the world except him knew that these books, belonging to the categories of martial techniques general outline, miscellaneous martial techniques, and iron skin and copper sinews cultivation, concealed an astonishing secret that he himself had hidden here. If one were to ask what the strongest cultivation method in the world is, the people would answer without hesitation, Heaven's Will secret technique. Every era when an immortal emperor acknowledged the Heaven's Will, they would create their own Heaven's Will secret technique. It is a secret technique that communicates with the Heaven's Will, directly connected to the heavens, and is extremely powerful. In the world, perhaps no one could imagine a cultivation method stronger than the Heaven's Will secret technique, or perhaps only those from the extremely ancient eras would know. If such a cultivation method exists, then it could only be a heavenly book among the 9 great heavenly books. In the desolate era, there was once a legend, when heaven and earth were not yet open, the universe, San Khan, was like an egg, chaos gave birth to grand beginning, Tai So, grand beginning evolved the 9 characters, Q2, 9 characters gave birth to the 9 treasures. Q Bao and 9 treasures forged the 9 books, Q Thursday. The 9 books are the legendary 9 great heavenly books, but in reality, since ancient times, no one has ever heard of anyone seeing the 9 great heavenly books, nor has anyone encountered the 9 great heavenly treasures, Q Dai Thien Bao. But Xianxia had seen the 9 great heavenly books. In the desolate era. By chance, when he transformed into the dark crow, Xianxia saw one of the 9 great heavenly books, which was the physique book the Thursday. Afterward, Xianxia used countless schemes, efforts, and planned for 10 million years, encountering countless difficulties before finally snatching it. But also because of the physique book, he faced even more mortal threats. In that era, who knows how many people pursued him? Even cultivators of the immortal emperor level were moved by the physique book. After obtaining the physique book, Xianxia figured out the profound secrets of heaven and earth within it. Thanks to this, even though he couldn't cultivate, Xianxia still possessed extremely heaven-defying strength. Because of this physique book, even invincible figures like Immortal Emperor Tun Ri, Swallowing Sun, and Immortal Emperor Ba Mie, Overbearing Extinction, had extremely close ties with him. As for Immortal Emperor Mingren, there's no need to mention it. This person was personally cultivated by him. Taking Immortal Emperor Mingren as an example, many people in later generations believed that Immortal Emperor Mingren's everlasting physique, true Thien, was innate. Even the disciples of the Cleansing Incense ancient sect through the generations agreed with this assessment. The everlasting physique is one of the 12 immortal physiques. Fundamentally, no one in this world is born with an immortal physique. Immortal Emperor Ming Ren's everlasting physique was cultivated, and moreover, this physique technique came from the physique book in Xianxia's hands. Xianxia knew that the physique book was always coveted by others, so he hid it. Furthermore, Xianxia was afraid that one day he might lose the physique book, and the memory of it would be simultaneously erased. So, to guard against that, Xianxia used a special method to hide the physique book, passing down its secret to this day. Xianxia spent so much effort hiding the profound secrets of the physique book in these martial technique secret manuals, which all cultivators despised. At that time, he divided the profound secrets of the physique book into 3 parts, hiding them in 3 different sets of martial techniques, totaling 120 scrolls, encompassing over 10,000 different martial techniques. Xianxia used an order that only he knew to hide the physique book. Even if others knew the physique book was hidden here, without knowing the arrangement order, they would never be able to find its secret. At that time, Xianxia had these 3 sets of martial techniques printed in 3 different eras. It could be said that the 3 sets of martial techniques had absolutely no connection. During these 3 eras, Xianxia had over 10,000 scrolls printed and spread them everywhere, not only in the mortal emperor world but also in the other 8 worlds. Although Xianxia erased all the cultivation methods in his memory, he kept the arrangement order intact, guarding against the day when even if the original copy of the physique book was lost, he could still retrieve its profound secrets from these 3 sets of martial techniques: general outline, miscellaneous martial techniques, and iron skin and copper sinews cultivation. Since ancient times, no cultivator has ever finished reading these 3 sets of martial techniques, the 120 scrolls. Even if someone practiced martial techniques, they couldn't possess all 3 sets simultaneously. The Cleansing Incense ancient sect having all 3 sets was thanks to Xianxia deliberately leaving them behind. He gave the Cleansing Incense ancient sect an opportunity. If someone could comprehend this secret, the Cleansing Incense ancient sect might produce a second immortal emperor like Immortal Emperor Mingren, or at least a disciple who cultivates an immortal physique. Unfortunately, few in later generations even glanced at these 3 sets of martial techniques, let alone trying to comprehend them. This is why, since the era of Immortal Emperor Mingren, no one with an immortal physique has appeared again in the Cleansing Incense ancient sect. Xianxia spent the entire night transcribing all the profound secrets of the physique book from the 120 scrolls. Looking at what was written, Xianxia couldn't help but reveal a satisfied smile. He slowly read each character. The memories of the physique book that were erased also slowly reappeared in his mind. In the end, the complete physique book once again emerged in Xianxia's memory. After remembering everything, he burned all the transcribed materials. Xianxia knew the preciousness of the physique book and how great a catastrophe he would face if someone knew the physique book was in his hands. Therefore, he only kept the secret of the physique book in his mind. In reality, the original copy of the physique book had been hidden by Xianxia. Apart from him, no one else in the world could know its location. However, Xianxia wasn't in a hurry to retrieve it because the physique book was also related to another secret, not just a simple profound cultivation method. After recovering all the memories of the physique book, Xianxia rested for a bit and the day had already broken. Manhua came up to the lone peak to meet Xianxia early in the morning. "Senior brother, I'm afraid I can't accompany you to the armament depository pavilion today. The elders sent me to report the marriage proposal to the sect master. I have to go out for a trip," Manhua informed Xianxia as soon as he saw him. Manhua was a road messenger, Duangsu, and was highly regarded by the elders, so he often received important news delivery missions. "Go ahead. I'm not in a hurry to choose treasures either." Xianxia gently nodded. He also intended to use this time to organize the cultivation methods and secret manuals in his mind. After Manhua left, Xianxia didn't go back to sleep. He took out the secret manual Kunpeng's Minor Intent 6 Forms. This scroll held a high status in the minds of the third-generation disciples. Although it was only a lesser emperor art technique, its power was enough to make others extremely wary. Immortal emperors through the generations created extremely formidable emperor art cultivation methods, including longevity methods to nourish vital energy and prolong lifespan, fate arts to protect life and attack enemies, and physique techniques to cleanse marrow and forge the body. This also includes the Heavens Will secret technique that only an immortal emperor can create. Throughout his life, immortal Emperor Mingren created countless cultivation methods. Whether it was longevity methods, fate arts, or physique techniques, Xianxia was extremely familiar with them. Immortal Emperor Mingren was personally cultivated by him. Most of the cultivation methods that Immortal Emperor Mingren created had Xianxia's involvement, which, of course, included the Heavens Will secret technique. Although all of Xianxia's cultivation method memories were erased by the Black Dragon King during his recent slumber, he could still retrieve them. Kunpeng's Minor Intent 6 Forms corresponds to the high-level Emperor Art Kunpeng's 6 transformations. It is the strongest fate art among all the fate arts Immortal Emperor Mingren ever created. Currently, Xianxia couldn't access high-level Emperor arts, so he didn't know if the cleansing incense ancient sect still preserved Kunpeng's 6 transformations. But he could still use Kunpeng's Minor Intent 6 Forms to retrieve the memories related to Kunpeng's 6 transformations. Xianxia slowly read and understood Kunpeng's Minor Intent 6 Forms. This cultivation method only had 6 movements. Not enough to be called a fate art for protecting life and attacking enemies. But Xianxia understood better than anyone that Kunpeng's 6 transformations was created based on these 6 movements. In the past, when Immortal Emperor Mingren was young, the Dark Crow Xianxia once took Immortal Emperor Mingren to watch a Kunpeng from afar. From that, Immortal Emperor Mingren derived these 6 basic movements, creating the famous Immortal Emperor Fate art Kunpeng's 6 transformations. As Xianxia comprehended, the 6 movements of Kunpeng's Minor Intent 6 Forms slowly transformed in his mind. Sometimes, the great Peng Dai Bong soared through the 9 heavens, flapping its wings 3,000 miles. Sometimes, the great Peng plunged into the 9 underworlds, piercing through the netherworld. Sometimes, it entered the deep sea, transforming into a giant Kun fish, its tail whipping up surging waves. Sometimes it transformed into a great Peng. And sometimes it transformed into a Kun fish. The transformation became faster and faster, constantly changing, until it was impossible to distinguish. The fish transformed into a bird, soaring into the 9 heavens, stepping upon the great Tao. The Kuan fish and the great Ping transformed back and forth like the transition of the sun and moon, naturally conforming to the Tao rhythm of heaven and earth. Boom! A loud sound erupted. The Kuan Ping flapped the waves. In an instant, Xianxia's entire body shook violently. The Kuan Ping flapping the 10,000 zhang-high waves suddenly vanished. The sky-high waves also disappeared. Everything slowly transformed into Tao rhythm, Tao Van. The Tao rhythm evolved into profound mysteries, operating the great Tao Dai Tao. Finally, the runes, Fu Van, in his memory that were originally erased once again clearly appeared in Xianxia's mind. These runes sometimes transformed into a great Peng, and sometimes transformed into a Kuan fish, with endless profound changes. In the end, it was impossible to distinguish whether it was a Kuan fish, or a great Peng, transforming into a complete Kuan Peng. A complete, flawless set of Kuan Peng's 6 transformations appeared in Xianxia's mind. Xianxia was extremely joyful. Heaven did not let down those who tried. He finally recovered all the memories of Kuan Peng's 6 transformations. It was unknown how long passed. Xianxia finally recovered his senses from the profound mysteries of Kuan Peng's 6 transformations. Unknowingly, he had been immersed in this supreme fate art for over a day. After comprehending the profound mysteries of Kuan Peng's 6 transformations, Xianxia did not become lazy or complacent. He understood his own situation better than anyone else. Compared to those geniuses, whether it was physique, life wheel, or fate palace, he was far inferior. Therefore he had to work diligently and cultivate 100 times harder. He had to be patient, only then could he possibly shoulder the heaven's will, sweeping across the 9 heavens and 10 earth. As someone who had personally guided and cultivated immortal emperors, and pointed the way for countless powerful Tao masters, he understood the principles of the great Tao better than anyone else. Although his physique, life wheel, and fate palace were slightly weak, he had his own advantage, which was a complete perfect cultivation guide. Xianxia began to study the moon-waning sun will art. This cultivation method was a longevity method specializing in cultivating the life wheel, though Luan, used to prolong lifespan and nourish vital energy. Any cultivator, even an ordinary person, has a life wheel. As long as a living being has intelligence, they must have 3 things: 1 is physique, the chat, 2 is life wheel, the Luan, and 3 is fate palace, Men Kung. There is no need to say much about the physique. This is what contains life. Without a body, there is no life. Even an ordinary person still has a mortal physique. A body of flesh and blood is the best medium for life. As for the life wheel, there is a saying about it. Trees have yearly rings, and people have life wheels. The life wheel is located inside the body, but it is not a physical substance. It is a continuously rotating circle of light. Only the cultivator themselves can see their own life wheel. Only after cultivating a longevity method will the life will appear behind the back of the head, representing the strength of vital energy and lifespan. If an ordinary person's life is free from calamities, the life will determines how long their lifespan is. For example, Xianxia's mortal grade life will Fam Luan. If he doesn't cultivate a longevity method, he will live to 60 years old under normal circumstances. The life wheel, physique, and fate palace are all divided into grades from low to high: mortal grade Cap Fam, post-celestial grade Cap Hao Thien, pre-celestial grade Cap Tien Thien, imperial grade Cap Hong, saint grade Cap Ton, and immortal grade Cap Tien. Although the life wheel, physique, and fate palace share the same grading, in principle, cultivators cannot change the grade of their life wheel and fate palace. They are innate. Only the physique can be gradually changed through cultivation. For example, a person with a pre-celestial physique who cultivates an imperial-grade physique technique can upgrade to an imperial physique. The life wheel and fate palace are completely opposite. Whatever is born remains. A pre-celestial life wheel is a pre-celestial life wheel, or an imperial fate remains an imperial fate. Even if you become stronger, even becoming an immortal emperor, you cannot change it, unless you want to alter fate. Amen. For cultivation, the physique, life wheel, and fate palace are all extremely important. Not one can be missing. The physique determines the quality of bones and physical condition. The life wheel determines whether the vital energy is abundant enough, and the fate palace determines talent and comprehension. For example, if you have a saint wheel, Tan Luan, your vital energy will be abundant like a desert. If you cultivate the same cultivation method, you will cultivate faster and the power unleashed will be greater. Xianxia slowly comprehended the moon waning sun wheel art, gradually recovering all the profound truths of this cultivation method. In reality, the moon waning sun wheel art was completely preserved by the cleansing incense ancient sect without any deficiency. But the profound truths that Xianxia was deriving were even more subtle than this secret manual. Speaking of the moon waning sun wheel art, one must mention its extraordinary origin. Xianxia also spent countless efforts on this cultivation method. In the early years of the era of the emperors Chuda, there was a short period when he considered having immortal Emperor Mingren cultivate this method, but then he stopped. In the extremely distant desolate era, whether it was the human race or the demon race, they were extremely weak living beings. Who knows how many virtuous figures successively created countless cultivation methods to struggle for survival, finally managing to pioneer a prosperous and flourishing situation. In that era, an extremely talented virtuous figure created a longevity method that could be quickly cultivated. That longevity method was the moon waning sun wheel art. In the early stage of this cultivation method, a cultivator could use their vital energy to pull the fate soul, Manhua, rapidly raising their Tao foundation. But the moon waning sun wheel art had a fatal flaw. In the early stage, it could use abundant vital energy as a foundation to raise the Tao foundation, but the higher the Tao foundation, a person's vital energy was no longer sufficient to pull the fate soul cultivation method. At this stage, the vital energy would no longer continue as before, and the Tao foundation would stagnate without progress. If one forced cultivation, it could even reduce lifespan. In that time, after Xianxia obtained this cultivation method, he also passed it on to quite a few people. But no one could cultivate it perfectly. To improve the moon waning sun wheel art, Xianxia invested countless efforts. He even sought the participation of several immortal emperors, such as Immortal Emperor Shuepai, Blood Skin, Immortal Emperor Mingren, Immortal Emperor Tun Ri, in this work. It wasn't until the era of the Black Dragon King that Xianxia officially perfected the moon waning sun wheel art. Today, as Xianxia calmly comprehended the moon waning sun wheel art in his hand, all the memories of its profound truths that were originally erased slowly returned to his mind. After the complete moon waning sun wheel art appeared, he put away the secret manual and took a deep breath. Who in the world knew how much effort he had spent on this cultivation method over the long years? Who knew how many virtuous figures of the human race had successively supplemented and improved the moon waning sun wheel art? In reality, since Xianxia left this secret manual in the cleansing incense ancient sect, not a few geniuses of the sect had tried to cultivate it, but ultimately no one could cultivate it to completion. Xianxia spent 3 days and 3 nights comprehending Kunpeng's 6 transformations and the moon waning sun wheel art. Although 3 days had passed, Nanhuaran still hadn't returned. Xianxia wasn't in a hurry to choose treasures and stayed on the lone peak to begin cultivation. After Xianxia revised the 2 longevity method and fate art to completeness, everything was ready, and he also began to cultivate. It can be said that Xianxia's cultivation experience was extremely rich. Although his talent wasn't good, in terms of experience, no one could compare to him. However, even with two heaven-defying cultivation methods, like Kunpeng's 6 transformations and the moon-waning sun-wheel art, he wasn't in a rush for early success. He wanted to pursue quality in cultivation. Xianxia knew clearly that being impatient would leave hidden dangers for his long path of great Tao cultivation. Xianxia cultivated both cultivation methods simultaneously, but the two had no connection with each other, nor did they communicate or interact. Kunpeng's 6 transformations belongs to the fate art for protecting life and attacking enemies, while the moon-waning sun-wheel art is a longevity method for nourishing blood and prolonging lifespan. One cultivates the fate palace and the other cultivates the life wheel. In the early stage, they can be cultivated simultaneously without affecting each other. Attacking enemies. 3 is physique technique, the thuat, for tempering the body and cleansing the marrow, and 4 is heaven's will secret technique, Thien Menbi thuat, which has the ability to shoulder the heaven's will. There is also a type of cultivation method that encompasses everything. Some call it the foundation heart method, Tom Phap Nan Mong, and others call it the pillar heart method, Tom Phap Tru Kot. This type of heart method is a versatile heart method. It integrates nourishing blood, protecting life, and tempering the body into one. One type of cultivation method can cultivate the entire life wheel, fate palace, and physique. Although this type of heart method includes many effects, most of them are of relatively low grade, and their power is limited. Cultivating this type makes it difficult to reach a powerful realm. Cultivation methods are also divided into grades. For example, the 9 Saint Heavenly Demon, Hutan Thien Yu, the ancestor of the 9 Saint Demon Gate, was an extremely powerful Grand Sage, Dai Hien. The cultivation method he created is called a Grand Sage cultivation method. And the cultivation method created by an immortal emperor is called an immortal emperor cultivation method or emperor art. With the same type of physique and talent, if different cultivation methods are practiced, the Tao foundation will also be different. If the same amount of time is used, the person cultivating an emperor art will definitely be stronger than the person cultivating a grand sage cultivation method. As for the heavens will secret technique, there's no need to say much. This is the type of secret technique that shoulders the heaven's will. Its heaven-defying nature is hard to imagine. Of course, cultivation methods are not everything. Without a steadfast Tao heart, Tao Tom, in the end, everything is just fleeting clouds. Since ancient times, how many geniuses, because they cultivated heaven-defying cultivation methods, had their path of great Tao cultivation extremely smooth, but ultimately suffered a cultivation deviation, Tao Hoa Nap Ma. Or some geniuses, just because they cultivated emperor arts from the moment they were born, were unable to create their own heaven's will secret technique when competing for the heaven's will, ultimately becoming failures. How to cultivate stably, Xianxia understood better than anyone. So, even though he held countless secrets in his hand, when he started cultivating, he still proceeded step by step, slowly but surely. Xianxia cultivated both cultivation methods at the same time. He used the moon-waning sun will art to urge his life wheel, and the effect was very clear. Behind Xianxia's head, a continuously rotating circle of light gradually appeared. The circle of light looked like the yearly rings of a tree. When the life wheel rotated, the vital energy inside also began to flow and move. The vital energy flowed with the life wheel, like river water being pulled by a water wheel, continuously gurgling non-stop. Vital energy is the factor that determines a person's health. If vital energy weakens, the cultivator also begins to age and die. Xianxia was born with a mortal wheel. His advantage in this aspect was very weak, and his vital energy was considered average. So when his life wheel rotated, his vital energy only flowed continuously like a gurgling stream. If it were others with a pre-celestial life wheel or imperial wheel, their vital energy would be like a rapidly flowing river that never stops. Especially the saint wheel, the vital energy of someone who possesses it is as fierce as the roaring sea. Li Qiye used his will to urge the true formula, Chan Quiet, of Kunpeng's 6 transformations, systematically beginning to knock on his fate palace. Every person must have their own fate palace. The fate palace is the gathering place of the true fate, Chan Men, the gathering place of the 3 souls and 7 spirits, Ba Hanbei Vaya, that mortals often talk about. The fate palace hides in the Ni palace. A cup ointment, Huyet Nakung. When Li Qiye began to use Kunpeng's 6 transformations to knock, the fate palace also slowly swayed, appearing in the Ni palace A cup ointment. When the fate palace appears, it will possess an ancient style and be translucent like jade. However, Li Qiye only had a mortal fate, so his fate palace only flickered with a faint light. If it were someone with an imperial fate, the fate palace would flicker with large, long golden rays of light. This type of fate palace is extremely domineering. Li Qiye only had a mortal fate, and couldn't compare to this type of person. Normally, the fate palace is closed and the soul sleeps. Only by knocking open the fate palace, awakening the soul, and communicating with the power of life can one begin cultivation. Therefore, people call the first realm of a cultivator knocking on the palace Cao Kung. This realm is divided into 3 minor stages, from low to high. 1 is knocking on the gate Cao Mon. 2 is awakening, Ten Jiak, and 3 is blood surge, Huyet Dung. Knocking on the gate, as the name implies, is knocking on the door of the fate palace, allowing the true formula of the fate art to enter the fate palace. In this process, it is like a Buddhist disciple bowing to the Buddha. One must continuously strive, knocking non-stop, waiting for the fate palace to respond before the door of the fate palace can be opened. Li Qiye used Kunpeng's 6 transformations to knock on the door of the fate palace again and again. The thump, thump, thump knocking sound echoed in his head. Li Qiye continuously urged the true formula to knock without stopping. Even he didn't know how many times he had knocked, but the fate palace remained the same, not making any sound. Despite this, Li Qiye did not stop and continued to knock. For geniuses, especially those with a saint fate, knocking on the fate palace is too easy because their fate soul is very powerful. Legend has it that a person with a saint fate once opened the door of their fate palace with just a single knock. This type of person belongs to the genius among geniuses. Of course, Li Qiye was not among them. So he needed effort and patience. Iron is sharpened by grinding. Although Li Qiye also knew a few other methods to open the fate palace with a single knock, such as using the moon waning sun wheel art to pull all the vital energy, and then using the vital energy of the whole body as the driving force to urge the true formula of Kunpeng's 6 transformations, using the strength of the vital energy to blast open the door of the fate palace, or relying on the power of vital energy to forcefully open the fate palace with just 1 knock. But he didn't do that. He himself was a mortal fate, and his vital energy was not abundant. Forcing it would damage the life wheel. Furthermore, forcing vital energy to knock on the door would also alarm the fate soul. Although the cultivation speed might be very fast later, it would leave hidden dangers for himself. Knowing his own weaknesses, Li Qiye had tempered a steadfast Tao heart for himself, and laid a very solid foundation. At this moment, he patiently knocked continuously on the door of the fate palace. Even if it was 10,000 times, 100,000 times, he would persistently knock until the fate palace responded.